This broadcast will start in 60 seconds. This broadcast will start in 45 seconds. This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org. This program does not reflect the views of KXVS management or KXVS, The Voice of Stockton. Welcome to Watching from Ringside. It's a special Sunday edition. Hey Ben.
Yeah, it's a new week. It's a new day. Right? Yeah. Crazy weekend though, huh? Yeah. Crazy weekend for wrestling. Great weekend for wrestling, actually. A lot of historical things happening in wrestling. All In was this weekend, Saturday. Fantastic. What a show.
It was a fantastic show, and it lived up to the expectations because everybody in the wrestling world talked about it last night and still talking about it today.
Still trending. #1 on Twitter, All In. Well, I was all in. You were all out.
No, I was all in too. Like I kept up with it.
You weren't all in like I thought you were.
I was going to be all in, but stuff came up.
Stuff came up.
Life comes up.
Life happens.
But what it means for the wrestling world, it means it's taken off, bigger and better, as they say. Mm-hmm. Like every year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's great to give the fans something that they're really passionate about, and to give them an alternative from the bigger, shows, right? Like WWE and all of that. Yeah. So I think this was something that it's kind of like that rebellious thing, right? Like a love letter to wrestling.
A love letter.
Yeah, and it really played up to everything that we had hoped for. You know, they did a home run. The set was great. The ramps, everything that was set up, the all-in ring, everything behind it. And it's crazy because not only did Cody and the Bucks have to wrestle, but they actually had to be in the back doing all of that work, right? In the gorilla position with the headsets.
They were actually booking.
They were booking. They were doing everything.
That'd be there for somebody has to do that job.
Yeah. So, Cody was back there. And, of course, one of the key things that happened was his main event match, which everybody thought was going to be in the latter half of the show, actually turned up halfway through the show. Uh-huh. So we thought we would see Cody versus Nick Aldis later, but we actually saw it a lot earlier.
In the middle of the show.
So that was a big surprise and All In. Of course, other big surprises, Joey Ryan returned after that long drawn-out storyline with Hangman Page. Uh-huh. And that was quite interesting. I don't know if we can really talk about some of those things, but very comedic presence at the end of Hangman's match. But before we get into All In, we'll catch you up on a couple of things that happened on Raw and SmackDown.
Well, let's start with Raw. It was in Raw, and then I think SmackDown was also back-to-back weeks in the same town. Yep. It was in Toronto, Canada, home of some great wrestling, and always great with the Toronto crowd. Actually, next year SummerSlam will be in Toronto, so
ooh, that should be entertaining.
That was interesting. That was announced earlier this week. Well, but we expected some people might be showing up sooner than later because Evolution's happening. The all women's pay-per-view.
Evolution.
Trish Stratus showed up to interrupt Elias. And it kind of it made a pop because Alexa Bliss also came out, right?
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting exchange with Elias and Trish.
I thought it was great. Good comedy.
Yeah, good comedy here. Trish obviously giving Elias a nice promo. They definitely had a little nice back and forth to send Elias on his way down the ramp.
Walking with Elias.
Yeah, walking with Elias. So that was really just a highlight of Raw promo. We also had Alexa coming out after that to, talk to each individual. So we had Ronda Rousey in the ring. We had Natty in the ring, and we had Trish, and then we have Alicia Fox and Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss, of course,
cuts a great promo.
Cuts amazing promos.
Yeah.
She's the best heel in the women's division right now.
But we'll get to heels on the women's side in a second because that's controversy right now.
That is a controversial thing going on.
But
also, what do you think about this little thing with Alexa and what's going on?
With what, her and Ronda, or her with
her and Trish.
General?
Really, her and Trish, right? Because you kind of mentioned that they both kind of are very similar in certain ways.
Well, both come from the bodybuilding world. Both weren't. They didn't really start out to be wrestlers, even though Alexa and I believe Trish was a fan when they were younger too. They kind of just fell into it, and then they have a similar background. They're funny people in real life. They're great humor. They're really nice. They're big charitable people. I think this was a natural kind of fit to do that evolution because it gives Trish Stratus maybe one more thing in her Hall of Fame career.
Yeah,
because we've seen her come back here and there, but
not actually
competitively
in a match, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was in that Women's Royal Rumble,
and she was in WrestleMania a couple years ago with that Snooki situation.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's always cool to see some of the pioneers come back and do things. And of course, you're limited on who you can bring back, right? Because Becky's out, but she's doing a lot of commentary for the Mae Young Classic, which I think is great.
Yeah. You mean Beth Phoenix?
Becky, yeah.
Yeah, you said Beth.
I was getting excited for the next part.
Actually, I have some rumors that her and Nia Jax will work at Evolution.
Really?
Yeah. Nia's out right now. I believe just taking some break right now, but
that would be very interesting. But both bigger women that are just powerhouses, right?
What else happened in Raw this week? So the Shield's payoff didn't really have a payoff, but Braun Strowman found friends, I guess?
Yeah, so he found a couple buddies, right? Not the buddies that we thought he would find, right?
He went with the heels a little bit.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go for Back to the Family. And that was kind of the rumor, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he would...
Because Bray Wyatt has nothing to do right now with Matt Hardy being out.
Right, and... I know the Bludgeon Brothers.
Luke Harper's, doesn't have a partner right now.
Yeah, so you thought maybe he would go that route, kind of, do a callback to the Wyatt family. But yeah, he ended up not going that way, right?
Yeah, they went with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, and a lot of people are saying this is going to set up a match maybe for Hell in a Cell or in the future Survivor Series.
I'd say more, I think, for Survivor Series.
Yeah.
As far as Hell in the Cell, we've only seen a couple of things lined up for that, which was, of course, The Miz and Daniel Bryan in a mixed match, right?
Yeah. We'll get to that one in a second too also. But yeah, that was mostly what happened on Raw this week. It was a good show, solid show, but Trish Stratus probably was the highlight. But
did we see Booker on that show?
No, we saw him on the next show.
So let's over to SmackDown.
Let's get to that. You said King Booker T, who is still part of WWE, does commentary here and there for them and does the pre-show panel stuff. Ambassador also for WWE, made a guest appearance for the New Day, and he welcomed him to a special club, but he came out as a special King of Booker. And he kind of broke character a little bit too.
Yeah, and it was cool because it was really, I wasn't expecting it.
No, I don't think anybody
was really expecting
Toronto, it. That got a big pop.
It got a big pop when his music played.
That was the first music too. I can never do that song.
Yeah, he was all with the crown and the robe and the scepter
and the pinky
and the pinky. This was fantastic. Great interaction with Booker and cutting a promo with the New Day.
Sir Xavier. No, it was I forgot what it was Sir Kofi, and then I forgot the other name for Xavier. But
and then of course Biggie made a little issue because he didn't have a fancy name.
What do I get a name?
Yeah, but he already did have a fancy name as King Booker. Yeah, put it. So really nice interaction with the promos between all of the guys. They're all familiar with each other. They all have really great comedic timing. And this just went over like hotcakes, right?
5-time, and they did that angle with it because the New Day is now a 5-time tag team championships.
And of course, everybody did a breakdance, with the exception of Biggie. He needed some help.
Yeah,
so he kind of he
did it like he was stuck on his back turtle gimmick.
So they just grabbed his leg and kind of twisted him around on the mat. I mean, definitely one of the standouts of SmackDown. Promo wise, also another promo thing. Or not promo wise. Carmella reinvoked her championship rematch clause, but lost to Charlotte. Unfortunately. Then
Becky came out of nowhere and attacked Charlotte, which that's been the whole controversy of lately. Why turning Becky heel? What else are you going to do with her?
Well, that's the thing.
Charlotte's kind of been on this role as one of the faces of WWE, going out and doing media right now.
I think
since her injury.
I think this is just one of those situations where you're just not going to do heel and face in this kind of storyline. It really is just a, two good friends that are, Becky's frustrated, right? We can all relate to kind of those stories of working really hard and trying to achieve something, and then it's swooped underneath us,
and somebody else gets it,
and somebody else gets it because of where they're at, who they know, or the name behind them, right? So they really played this out, and I think, Becky's really just kind of on the line, right? She's a tweener, really.
But this also gets her to cut a promo too, so
and
that helps her future on, because we know she struggles with promos a little bit.
But I've seen her do some older work, and she's done some really good heel work.
And so this
is it. This is what we're seeing. We're kind of seeing the revitalization of heel Becky.
And she kind of threw a word out there that it's not really PG, I would say.
I don't think so.
We're not going to repeat it, but
she threw out the B word on this one.
Yeah, and people are like, "What? Really?"
Oh, and that was a surprise too, because they were popping when she came out,
and she held the title over Charlotte.
She held the title up, and
she grabbed the microphone, get me a microphone.
Yeah, and said she was coming for the title, and then made that amazing dramatic pause, and then boom,
and that basically dropped the microphone.
Shots fired, and everybody popped big. So this is what we're going into.
I kind of like this attacking Charlotte, and I don't know if we're gonna get. I think we're getting a match at Hell in a Cell. They haven't really announced it yet, but. It's going to be interesting. Just see how far this feud can go, and let it go to at least Evolution, and see, maybe get Becky over, because we know Charlotte's doing this goodwill kind of thing with WWE as a champion right now, but it's kind of helping Becky too, because her social media platform, we're seeing her talk smack and other stuff, and it's making Becky relevant, because the fans are upset Becky's not getting a chance to be the champion right now, but this is actually helping Becky.
Yeah.
Because you're still talking about her.
Yeah, it's still a longer build-up to, which I always thought would be Evolution, to see both of these two go. And it'd be a fantastic match.
Maybe the main event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Raw,
I definitely could see it as one of the top matches. Maybe not a main event, but it's one of the...
Raw always gets the main event.
Yeah, of course, Raw always gets the main event. So that's kind of was the highlight for SmackDown, really, and that's what people have been talking about.
And still Samoa Joe and AJ doing their stuff, but
and this one is just kind of the same thing, right? Joe in the back cutting a promo on the phone with AJ's wife, and then AJ gets mad again, goes back there, and he's just yelling back there looking for Joe, calling him out. So it kind of extends their storyline a little bit. Of course, that's going to be a match at Hell in a Cell, right?
Yeah, and there's also another match announced: Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton in a Hell in a Cell.
So now,
which makes me think about Jeff's safety a little bit because of the recent bumps he's taken.
Right, very concerning. But also, an RKO out of nowhere somewhere in Hell in a Cell.
They'll work that in there, him and Jeff.
And then of course you've got the Daniel Bryan storyline still continuing with the Miz. Now they've involved their wives, right?
Maurice and Miz had a thing in the ring this week, and Miz and or was it last week? No, it was this week. Miz and Maurice, and then Daniel came out, started talking, and then we hear Bree's music, Bree mode.
Yeah.
Then Bree went into Bree mode and punched Daniel Bryan punched the Miz in the face, and he sold it perfectly, and it was awesome, and it set up a great match in the future between these two couples.
So now the mixed match at Hell in the Cell, which is interesting because
they're kind of pushing this mixed match,
but in a Hell in a Cell, and that's kind of...
Oh, is it going to be in a Hell in a Cell?
I think so.
I thought it was at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, but I don't.
Oh, that's right. Because Hell in the Cell doesn't always utilize a cage in every match.
I know.
So
it's
maybe
so confusing
it's
now.
just a mixed match. But as far as we know, it's a mixed match at Hell in the Cell. It might not actually be in a Hell in the Cell. It'll be at Hell in the Cell.
That's confusing. I don't know why they do that.
Well, that's the thing is sometimes these pay-per-views will tell you hey, it's Extreme Rules, but not every match was Extreme, right?
Yeah, no.
We didn't use a table in every match.
I think there was one, and that was the women's title match.
Yeah, and it might have been Sanity's match, right?
Yeah,
With
also.
New Day?
Yeah, well, that was a table match or something like that crazy.
So
but
that's
haven't seen Sanity in a while either.
The world of wrestling, right?
But yeah, that's the main things from Raw and SmackDown this week. Besides that Toronto announcement for SummerSlam next year, nothing really big, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go in a couple weeks because we got pay-per-views coming up.
Mm-hmm. And then of course a few highlights from NXT. You have Gargano kind of coming out on NXT with the crutch, and people are cheering for him. Of course, he lost at Brooklyn 4. So Ciampa still remains the man in NXT. He also did cut a promo in NXT, kind of he solidified his place in NXT. Doesn't kind of matter what people say. I beat Gargano. That's it. I'm the champ. Too bad.
Huh.
So Gargano comes out there, and kind of does the, babyface promo, but he's kind of like the boo-hoo promo, right? I know I failed. I know I messed up. I gave in. I became Ciampa, I gave into my rage and messed up. And, of course, Regal came out there. And Regal's been on this huge storyline hunt to who beat up Aleister Black, right?
Yeah.
So this is where this leads up to, is he confronts Gargano. But Gargano doesn't really quite answer him right straight up. He's like, well, you know me for a long time. Look into my eyes and kind of tell me. And then as soon as that happens, your boy Velveteen Dream comes out and interrupts the whole promo and kind of gives his 2 cents, like, boo-hoo Gargano, right? Why you're gonna come in here and say this and that, and kind of poke Gargano a little bit with his promo. And then of course Gargano throws the crutch at him, knocks him down out there, and he says, I'm ready, let's go. So next week on NXT, we're going to see Gargano versus Velveteen Dream.
Well, interesting, because Velveteen Dream's kind of like one of the only heels in NXT right now.
That's right. And
besides the Undisputed Era.
Right. And of course, we didn't really see any Adam Cole. We saw a lot
Ciampa,
we saw a lot of Ricochet action, and of course, we saw Ricochet and Pete Dunne team up. So of course we're kind of going back to that. Remember when Roderick Strong turned on Pete Dunne? So there's always that.
They haven't had a payoff for that either.
They haven't had a payoff for that. So you're kind of seeing a little bit of that here.
Roddy Strong.
Of course, Roddy and Kyle O'Reilly pull away with the win and continue to beat up the guys after the match, especially Ricochet.
Yeah.
And but of course, the two bigger guys. War Machine?
Yeah,
came out to interrupt that.
Well, we're setting up for in the future War Games on NXT, so they're probably getting the teams ready for that. So it's going to be interesting to see, and that's going to be in Los Angeles, by the way.
Right, and of course, there's also the reveal of Kairi's women's championship. Of course, on Twitter, that's exploded because on the TV taping, they had the title inside the treasure chest.
Yeah.
So Kairi goes to take her belt out of the treasure chest with coins, and as she's throwing coins to people in the audience, the belt slips off and flies, and one of the guys catches it, and she's like, oh my god. And so that's the big news on Twitter, is like, oh no, she's just throwing the belt away. And so she kind of replied she was really embarrassed about that and what happened, but everybody thought it was really funny. Like, Kairi can't do any wrong, right? Super babyface right now in NXT.
Well, since we're caught up on WWE everything, let's go to what's happened yesterday, which is still trending.
And will continue probably to trend for the rest of the weeks.
When you guys have guys like John Pollock and Dave Meltzer say this is the best wrestling event I've ever been to, that's saying something big. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, this is the best event I've ever attended, from like StarCast to this. This weekend was really fun, and it's kind of a different different than WrestleMania weekend, because it's full of guys who were part of WWE who are no longer there, who kind of say, hey, let's start a new era of something fun to do.
It's kind of interesting. It's like a real hybrid moment in the history of wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And very much everyone kind of said that about this show, is that there are a lot of callbacks to the old style of NWA. Tommy Dreamer mentioned it got a ECW vibe from it.
Bully Ray said that too.
A very indie feel, and of course you're trying to mesh that into the modern, kind of style of wrestling that we see, which is the hyper. Over stylized kind of fast paced action of the Bucks, and in a couple of those matches, and then of course the Japanese strong style, very high impact. It's great for people who haven't really experienced wrestling or have never seen wrestling before. I think All In is a really nice kind of dip your toe into a lot of different cultures for wrestling, because you have like a lucha style with Rey Mysterio, Bandito, and those guys, and then you have like the high flying of the Bucks. You have the Japanese style with Okada, and then you have just kind of Cody and all this really kind of did a more traditional like wrestling kind of story, but theirs was like more storytelling. So let's kind of get into like the early parts.
Yeah, let's go to the early part. Let's start us off with what happened.
So the pre-show, we had like two key things that happened on the pre-show. We had the Briscoes with SoCal, of course, SCU, those guys, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky beat the Briscoes, and that was kind of just to kind of get the crowd a little warm for the night. And then of course the Battle Royal pre-show, which was great. So you have like this under budget Battle Royal, so you have 15 guys, different guys coming in. Colt Cabana, obviously he was the hometown favorite because of Chicago, and that was a big pop. Bully Ray was in there though, so we really thought Colt Cabana was the guy that was going to come out on top with this Battle Royal and go on to defeat Jay Lethal, but that actually didn't happen. Is one of the guys was a masked character that didn't go over the ropes, and he kind of did a Santino kind of thing and hid. So Bully Ray was kind of the big guy in this Battle Royal, taking out everybody. Ended up getting Colt Cabana out. We thought Bully Ray had won it. The masked guy comes in only to reveal himself as Flip Gordon, which, of course, if you've been following any of the storylines between being the Elite or any of the All In social media, you'll know that Flip was all out, and he actually had an all out party the day before,
and Cody was like, I don't see it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't see him being a part of this, and one of those indie darling kind of wrestling guys. And one of the things too is, so this transitions Flip over into a title match, which was about the second half of All In.
Yeah, ROH.
Yeah. So that's the Ring of Honor World Title versus Jay Lethal. So that's what you missed on the pre-show. The big things being that Flip Gordon appeared. Yeah. And Flip Gordon won. So
then he probably went back to his party for a little bit.
The party was the day before.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Okay. So that happened. That was all not pre-show stuff, but day before stuff.
That's why I didn't know. I thought it was the same day.
Same stuff like around Starcast and things like that. And Starcast I didn't really follow, but it's kind of, we'll probably catch up on that. So we had the very first match of the night, which wasn't really mentioned at all in any social media, but it was Matt Cross and MJF. I've seen Matt Cross perform before, and he's very good. A much older veteran. He's kind of had his Eric Young kind of beard going on. I feel like everyone's kind of got that beard going on. MJF is really the guy that impressed me. Young, cocky athlete. This was really a solid match all around. Great match to open it up with. Keep the crowd going. They really played on that old versus young. Matt Cross has been in the industry for quite some time. Much older wrestler, still a great high flyer. But MJF, much younger, can go the distance kind of deal. So that's really kind of what happened. It was, overall, I think it was a solid match. It was a really cool spot with MJF doing kind of like a innovative pile driver off the mid rope. Had the Matt Cross's legs kind of dangling there and just turned it into like a double underhook pile driver. That was really kind of cool. MJF, of course, being the heel, this was kind of that traditional heel babyface kind of thing. So you had Matt Cross, the babyface, obviously everyone was cheering for him. MJF doing whatever he can to get some heat. He was definitely focusing on body parts as in usual traditional heel tactics, right? Eye poke, rake of the eyes kind of thing. So overall, at the end, Matt Cross, well known for his shooting star press, hits the shooting star press at the end. Boom, that's it. Call it a day. He wins the first round.
1, 2, 3. What was the match to follow that?
So the match to follow that was Daniels and Stephen Amell.
Ooh.
So that was interesting, right? So, of course, this is interesting because, Emil gets a big pop because of Arrow. And
he's only had like one match before, too.
I want to say he's had 2.
Okay, one was with Cody Rhodes or
right.
Star.
But then I think people count the one with Neville where he was in a tag match with
Neville. I forgot about that.
But he didn't really do a whole lot, right? Neville kind of carried the majority of that match. I think this match really impressed me simply because Amel, like for someone who has only had maybe 2 or 3 matches, really did very well. And of course, the commentary was, of course, across the board. Ian was amazing on commentary. He was like the consistent guy. We had your buddy Don Callis in and out for certain ones.
Cyrus Virus,
Cyrus
head of TNA.
And then we had Excalibur, which I totally forgot about him, but Excalibur's a fantastic commentator from PWG, the masked luchador commentator. So he, between shifting different people in and out, obviously Cody had his own commentator, somebody that knew him from way back, like when he started at, Ohio Valley Wrestling, Florida Championship Wrestling, and things like that. They had people in and out for each match.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's different.
So, and that's very different. It keeps keeps the commentary fresh. Ian, like I say, he's awesome. He's super consistent, quick on his feet for the commentary, especially working with all these different people. So, overall, the match was a pretty solid match. I think a lot of people were impressed with Emil. He did a little bit of everything.
Did he have anybody in his corner?
Yes, he had a co-star from the show.
Okay.
But I don't know. I can't remember who it was. But it was. I'm not familiar with the Arrow show. So he did have a co-star out there. He was representing Bullet Club. So this was kind of
interesting.
This was interesting because it was kind of like he was doing some kind of heelish stuff because he obviously has had like some promos back and forth with Christopher Daniels, especially that last promo where he was training in the ring with Cody, and of course Christopher Daniels kind of shows up. And
plus, Christopher Daniels can work with anybody.
He can work with anybody, and this was a solid match all around. You got to see a little bit of everything with in this match.
And you said he hit a move that you didn't expect him to hit.
He did. So before he hit the Van Terminator, of course, people would call it like Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
I always remember it as Van Terminator simply because basically, from the ring, you got Daniels on one side of the ring.
Yeah.
You got Emil on the other, and he springs all the way across for a drop kick.
Yeah. Shaman Man does it. Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
As you were talking about.
Huge pop for that. And of course, then there was a table set up on the outside, and so it was kind of set up early on. And then as the match unfolded, we had Daniels kind of roll out onto the table at some point. Emil again on the top. But Daniels, rolled off, and Emil goes through the table on that one. That was a huge spot. A lot of people popped for that. Daniels hit the first BME, but he didn't quite hit all of it. He was going to go for Fallen Angel, which is the other finisher move, but Emil countered that, so ended up doing a counter to that, flipped him over into like a suplex pin, which everybody thought, man, that was close, very close near fall. Ended up, Daniels came back with like a modified backbreaker to set up for another BME, put him away, and that was it. You got the handshake at the end, a lot of respect between those two guys, even though, you had these like really tense interactions in the promos. You got the handshake. Daniels comes away with the win on that. So then after that match, they also Emil hit a Falcon Arrow, which was kind of cool. Everybody thought that was going to be it. And he kicked out. Actually, when he went through the table, you had the crowd chant Broken Arrow. So and that's the cool thing about All In. It's I feel like everyone didn't leave their seat. I feel like everyone was into almost every match. So after that, it was the women's match. So you had Dr. Baker, of course, and you had Chelsea Green, who really surprised me.
From TNA,
I haven't seen Chelsea Green wrestle, I was really I was impressed with her. Madison Rain, who I've seen perform before, and then of course your girl Blanchard,
Tess Blanchard, who was in the Mae Young Classic last year, kind of got a big pop lately because a lot of people are like, yeah, she's an indie darling, kind of like she's a name recognition like Cody Rhodes, but she hasn't had her fair
second-generation wrestler. She
hasn't had an opportunity in WWE, and so this was kind of like this was a step out for her, basically.
Yeah, and this was just another one of those, I feel like, solid matches all around. The women got the "This is awesome" chant at some point. Blanchard came out with the family, so walked down to the ring.
Tully.
They were there. So overall, I think this was a great match. Of course, Blanchard's more of a powerhouse, and you do have the high flying in there. Of course, I think every woman in there really did one of those high spots, whether it was a suicide dive through the ropes or off the top. I think Madison Rayne did like a crossbody off the top at one point. A lot of great solid wrestling that you'd kind of see. Of course, you have two women kind of brawling it on the outside, two women on the inside for the most part. Everybody I felt got their stuff in. They got their spots. But yeah, I was really impressed with Chelsea Green's split personality. I hadn't really quite seen that, so she was kind of fighting the handshake. Obviously, All In kind of follows the Code of Honor, which is from Ring of Honor, which every wrestler at the beginning of the match shakes hands. Of course, her half personality was fighting that handshake. Eventually, did do the handshake. But your girl didn't do the handshake. She popped right out of the gate, popped Madison Rayne right with a heavy elbow.
Tess Blanchard, she kind of works as a heel.
Yeah, so she was definitely the heel in this one. Very much everyone else was kind of babyface. But yeah, this was interesting. Towards the end of the match, she hit the hammerlock DDT, and we all thought that was it, but we saw I want to say it was either Chelsea or Baker, because the way the camera angle was, you couldn't quite see, but you thought somebody was going to go and try and interrupt the pin, and the ref was counting 2, and then he hit the 3, but we didn't really hear 3, and then all of a sudden we heard the bell ring, and that was it. And so I'm not sure if that was the planned finish, but I feel like it kind of worked with whatever was going on.
Then,
the fans were just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's good.
Then Tess Blanchard got the win.
Yeah, so Tess Blanchard ends up getting the win on this one. Really, like I say, a solid match all around. I think all the women really, you got to see a little bit of everything. You got to see them brawl. You got to see them do some technical wrestling, a lot of hip and arm drag tosses, some high flying. And that's what's really kind of cool about All In, is you really got to see a mix of styles for each match. So then the match after that, which everyone was really surprised when it was announced, was Cody and Nick Aldis. And I think the crowd was kind of like, whoa, like, because obviously as I was watching on the stream, we're seeing who's coming up next. I imagine that marquee screen is popping for in the arena, so you could hear the crowd reaction, like, whoa, like this is happening now. And Cody came out with everyone. Brandy came out first, and she was like in this really sparkly kind of attire with heels, and she got a huge pop. And then the Nightmare Family came out. So what was cool about this, and I feel like this was like a very much MMA boxing kind of
I've heard about the entrances. A lot of people
style for the entrance. So yeah, you get they start out in the back and they're walking their way to the ramp to the front. So you get Cody coming out first with everyone, and he's got DDP, he's got Tommy Dreamer, he's got a family with him, the Nightmare Family. He brings Pharaoh with him too. He's got the dog. So they all walk out and the crowd pops, huge. And this is weird because this isn't really that traditional babyface heel, right? Because Cody has been a heel for like literally over a year in the Bullet Club. He's been the heel guy.
Works most naturally better as a heel.
Yeah, so this was really kind of a different a vibe to it. But this was the match that had the most storytelling to it, right? It had like the build-up from being the elite. It had the All-In series, the 10 pounds of gold. Yeah. And really kind of what we saw
as you mentioned, 3 different social media kind of like platforms that follow the story.
And totally different videos like kind of following the story.
Yeah, like 10 pounds of gold follow the championship with Nick Aldis and what the history of the championship means with the Cody's family and his dad. And then you had Being the Elite, kind of, which followed Cody. As point of view that the other one followed basically the All-In event.
Yeah. And really that's what fans were really built up to. And this was fantastic. I think this is a great storytelling for this indie show, and it's the one that people were waiting for. So we got it in the middle of the show. Nick Aldis comes out. He got booze, of course. Not heavy booze, but he did get some booze. So when they came out, kind of like the traditional wrestling style that you would see. You saw some great chain wrestling between the guys, kind of feeling each other out, that whole process. Obviously, Cody's got to use more of his agility to kind of get around the powerhouse. And Nick Aldis is such a huge guy, right?
Yeah.
So you had your buddy Earl Hebner calling this one. And, they very much treated this like this was a big deal. Like they had the announcer, they had the Earl Hebner with the 10 pounds of gold, and he actually cut like a little mini promo in the middle of the ring.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he got the mic, and he said, I know you both, I know what this means, the NWA Championship and the history behind it. I've been to, I know you both very well and wish you both the best of luck. So Earl kind of cut a promo, showed both of the guys the belt, and then we're off to the races. Also, Nick Aldis, when he was coming down, he came down with
Mickie James?
No.
Oh.
He did mention, I think they did mention Mickie James, but he came down with Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, did he?
I was really surprised.
Because, Jeff Jarrett, he brought, Nick Aldis was kind of brought into Impact TNA by Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, and of course he came with Daivari, which I couldn't remember Daivari, but I recognized him. So Daivari actually has a key spot in this match as well. So at some point in the match, it was kind of, both guys feeling each other out back and forth. At some point, Cody goes for a springboard outside, and he was going for, I don't know if he was going for a kick or an elbow, but Aldis hits him. Like, Cody counters him, knocks him out of the air. So Earl's waving the X, right? Like, he's knocked out. Aldis kind of rolls back off on the side apron, lying on his back. And Cody's out there, and he's just out. And so everyone's just kind of like, and everybody's like, kind of irritated, like, no way, it can't end this way, right? Yeah. And of course, commentary is hyping it up. So DDP comes out. DDP comes out to check on Cody and see what's going on. This leads to Daivari coming out, and Daivari comes, and then he telling Nick, get back in the ring, get up, and all that. And so he's getting in Earl Hebner's face. And as he's coming down to the ring and they're yelling, he turns over to DDP and he pushes him out of the way. So
Diamond Cutter?
Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page hits the ring, hits the Diamond Cutter. But I was kind of surprised that he didn't do the whole bang thing.
Okay.
He hit the DDP, he hit the Diamond Cutter. It was great. And he kind of looked around like I thought he was going to do it, and maybe he just decided, I'm not going to do the whole pomp and circumstance. So then he rolls out back to check on Cody. Cody's bleeding at this point.
Wow. Busted open.
Yeah, busted open. He rolls back in the ring. They continue. At some point in the match, Aldis puts him in the cloverleaf and he's bleeding, and Brandy's right there. And they get, I love the chemistry between the two, because Brandy's so good at storytelling outside of the ring. And I think a lot of people don't know that as a manager valet. They don't do that enough. And so she's there yelling and like kind of reaching for him, and he's fighting to reach for the ropes.
So like WWE, we only knew Brian Rhodes as a ring announcer.
I know. Yeah. And she just does such a wonderful job of adding more depth into this story. And so, of course, he does hit the ropes, and has time to recover. A lot of different things. You saw him with him trying to do the Alabama Slam, but he couldn't quite do it because he was hurt. And
was that a nod to Hardcore Holly?
He did the one that was the spin, because he did it again and he spun around and slammed it. But did Dusty do that at any point?
I don't remember. No,
that had to have been a nod to somebody. I would think.
Well, Hardcore Holly kind of was one of his mentors when he first came up. He said.
Okay, and it was some back and forth, and then of course Aldis got in a run. He hit a pile driver on him that looked pretty rough.
I heard Brandy took an elbow too.
Yeah, so at that point, I think it was after the pile driver, Aldis was going up to the top rope and he was going for a top elbow. Brandy slides in and takes the elbow. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Took the elbow for him, so she's rolling out, and of course Aldis is like, and everyone starts chanting some mean things to
you messed
Aldis.
Up basically.
No, they start throwing out some curse words, right? So they're really getting into it. And then, of course, Cody finally, I think early on, he tried for a beautiful disaster, whiffed it. This time he goes, he hits it, hits Crossroads, and then Aldis kicks out. And then they go for like a setup, which a lot of people say this is a nod to old NWA style finish. A lot of people are saying this is a nod to SummerSlam, the British Bulldog match. So all this goes for a sunset flip, doesn't quite get it, and then Cody just pins him for the 1, 2, 3.
Wow!
And that's how he gets the belts.
Dusty finish.
Yeah, so it was totally like a Dusty kind of finish, right? A lot of people didn't expect that to happen, but man, it popped huge.
And that sets up now Cody, because we've heard Nick Aldis strictly is booked by Billy Corgan, who runs the NWA now, who bought the promotion.
Yeah.
So does that set up where Cody only works for Billy Corgan now, and he travels around with the World Championship? So it's going to be interesting to see where they go in the future with the 10 pounds of gold.
Yeah, and that's that was probably like some of the bigger pops of the night. Of course, after that. After the dramatic storytelling, we get this amazing hardcore match, right? The Chicago street fight. So I'm not really familiar with Joey Janela, other than a lot of people have told me, like, this guy is hardcore.
Getting high praise by a lot of people.
Yeah, he's getting a lot. I mean, this guy has done some really rough matches. Like, so this is like nothing new for Joey Janela. I feel like this is new territory for Hangman Page. So beginning of their match is a lot of the summed up footage of being the Elite, right? So we know that Hangman's in this really long storyline with he's killed Joey Ryan, right? Yeah. So of course they kind of recap everything for you that led up to it, which was kind of Joey Ryan showing up, hanging out with the guys in the Bullet Club. At some point, I don't really know what sparked the interaction between him and Hangman. He had like an obsession with him because, Joey Ryan has the reputation of being, that kind of wrestler with his, And so we saw that storyline unfold over being the Elite, and he had really this kind of obsession with him to the point that led up to this match, which Hangman Page lost. He got tossed around by, that. And then he got super kicked in the jaw, and that was a wrap. So he couldn't let it go.
No.
He tracks Joey Ryan down in a hotel, chokes him out, beats him up with a telephone receiver, in a bloody mess. And so the storyline is that Hangman Page has killed Joey Ryan, of course, and then that spawns into who really did it, right? Because everybody, is like, well, we don't know what's going on. That was blamed on Stephen Amell. And some other things. So there's a wild story arc with this, but it all ties up and wraps up into this because it really comes into play with what's going on with Hangman Page in this particular match. Of course, the boots come into play. As you know, as Hangman left the scene of the crime, his bloody cowboy boots became cursed, and they started talking to him. So throughout being the Elite, he has nightmares not only of Joey Ryan, but the haunting of these cursed boots who keep constantly talking to him. This is why he throws them and gets rid of them. So Joey Janela comes out. I didn't really feel like one over the other. This was kind of interesting because Hangman Page is not really a baby face.
Yeah.
And Joey Janela is definitely a heel, for sure. He's just a cocky guy. He came out with, his... what was her name? Something Ford.
Okay.
Penelope Ford, I want to say. But she actually really got involved too. I was definitely impressed with her as well as a manager valet. So the street fight really kind of went anything you can think of for a street fight, it happened. Started right away outside of the ring, guys tossing each other, into the guardrails, out in the crowd. It kind of ended up, there was a Cracker Barrel. Everybody loved to go to Cracker Barrel. There was actually a Cracker Barrel out by the barricade that they used.
That's funny.
Yeah, so he threw Hangman over into the barrel, over the guardrail, and Janela hit this really awesome spot where he set up a steel chair, jumped off the Cracker Barrel, did a flip into a Hangman in the crowd, and crowd did a huge pop for that. There was, just a lot of stuff going on. The bigger spots had to do with the ladder. So they set up a ladder with the barrel. So half the ladder is on the barrel, the other part end is on the apron. And they were setting up this spot, kind of going back and forth. And then Hangman gets him into the burning hammer and just, heaves him over into the ladder. And that looked painful. I mean, just a lot of the stuff that these guys went through, it was brutal. But it was a fantastic match. Another big spot was they walked down the entrance ramp all the way back. And then, of course, Janela hit him with like a running clothesline and was going to set him up. But Hangman countered, got him into the powerbomb and ran and threw him off. Because before, Janela and Ford had set up these tables and just threw him. And it looked like, I don't even think he hit all of the table, but it looked like his head just like hit the edge. It still broke, but it looked like he just went right into the cement.
Yeah.
And, just some brutal spots all around. At some point, Hangman had the advantage until Ford came in, and they've been teasing like this plastic bag, but nobody knew it was inside it. So Ford had got it from Hangman at some point. But as they were kind of going back and forth, she got in there, and he was going to try and clothesline her. She did the Matrix dodge, and she did a couple backflips, and then she ended up slapping him and doing a couple of moves on him, Hurricane Rana, things like that. Knocked him over, and he was like really surprised. But she's definitely must have had some wrestling experience, because she definitely got the crowd popping for that. And then at some point Hangman gets the bag from her, the plastic bag. Inside the bag is the cursed boots.
Wow.
And he kind of loses his stuff, right? And there's also something else in that bag that comes into play later. So Janela takes full advantage of this. Definitely has the advantage over Hangman while he's kind of in this like dazed stupor, right? And super kicks, kind of a couple exchanges of super kicks, and then the boots are like tossed at Hangman, and he's like looking at them, and then Joey kicks does a super kick, kicks the boots into his face, and then after that, they pull out another ladder. So they set up this ladder in the middle of the ring, and they get a table. And so this really is kind of like the go-home for them. At some point, Janela is going to set, Hangman up for something on the table. Hangman gets off. At some point, he reaches for the bag again. He finds the bloody telephone receiver and phone from the hotel room and beats Janela with it at the top of the ladder, and then gets him in the rite of passage, which I don't know if you've seen his finisher, rite of passage. He kind of flips him over, and then he drops him on his head. Oh. He did that earlier to him, but this time he does it off the ladder into the table, and it looked so brutal, and that was it. Which also set up this whole comedy gimmick which felt like an Undertaker-ish thing with the Druids, but they're dressed up as something else.
You can find it online,
and you can find it online because it's very much storytelling.
Trending, yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a trending moment.
It's all over Twitter this morning.
Yeah, and so Joey Ryan actually appears, and of course Hangman surprised at that.
All in 2. We'll see that.
Yeah, it might set up an all in 2 for these guys. So that's really kind of it for Hangman Page's match. I think overall that was a really solid match as well. This leads into Jay Lethal and Flip Gordon. So Jay Lethal's been battling with this. If you've been following the YouTube storylines, he's been battling with his persona, right? We knew him as the Black Machismo, which is a Macho Man gimmick that he was really good at.
Didn't he have a special person ringside with him?
Yeah, so of course, as he's coming to the ring and he's talking to himself, somebody hands him the glasses and somebody pats him on the back and he kicks into Macho Man mode. So he comes out to like the traditional Macho Man theme song, Pomp and Circumstance, with the traditional gear, with Macho Man's brother.
Yeah, Lanny
Poffo.
Yeah,
Poffo, yeah.
The genius.
Yeah, the genius. And so this was great. Huge pop. People weren't really expecting that.
Which is a special moment because Randy Savage he didn't really get to have a final goodbye in wrestling.
That's right. And so everybody thought it was going to be Jay Lethal. So, of course, Flip Gordon, comes out before that. And he comes out with Brandy Rhodes, which is interesting. If you've been following the storyline, him and Brandy have become friends. Basically, in the storyline, Cody's so busy with putting together All In, he kind of doesn't have the time for his wife. Oh. So Flip's kind of been there chatting with his wife. So she comes out, escorts Flip to the ring, big pop. A lot of people were really into this match too, Ring of Honor title match. This was definitely a great match because a lot of people feel that Flip, when you think of Flip Gordon, you think of exactly that, like high flyer, a lot of flips, doesn't really wrestle. This match really kind of showed everybody that Flip can wrestle. He can actually wrestle, very technical chain wrestling style, submissions, things like that. And that really kind of showcased everything for Flip. A lot of different things happened throughout the match. I think one of the highlights was when Jay Lethal kind of went out there to Brandy Rhodes and kind of treated her like Elizabeth, like kind of walked with her and told her to stay in the corner, in his corner.
Yeah.
So a lot of different things happen, a lot of nods to Macho Man, which is cool. At some point, though, Jay Lethal snapped out of it, and he became Jay Lethal again towards the end of the match and hit, a lot of the Jay Lethal moves. He hits Lethal Injection, and that's it for Flip. So Jay Lethal retains the Ring of Honor title, but definitely another one of those solid standout matches where everybody who's not familiar with Flip was like, well, is it going to be... Wasn't much of a high flying. There were some spots there, but definitely more of a solid wrestling Ring of Honor match. And then this goes into Kenny Omega and Pentagon, which is Penta L0. He's got different names.
Which he could wrestle. He did an Impact pay-per-view a little while ago, and it was really good.
Yeah, and everything that you'd expect from this match is pretty much
two guys who can work.
Two guys who are just like brutal, like really high impact, really. You get some striking, some high flying. You get that
strong style,
that strong style.
Lucha
you get
style.
That lucha style. This was really just exactly what you thought it was. It was kind of showcasing everything, and the guys hit all their stuff. Pentagon got Cody with the arm bar snap that he does, the kind of thing that he's really known for with the right arm. So this kind of sets up a little bit of the psychology with as the match goes on. When Kenny finally hits One Wing Angel, he has to do it with his left hand, which I thought was kind of cool because he's not really doesn't do that.
No.
So because he's predominantly a right-handed guy and he does One Wing Angel with the right hand. So yeah, which is awesome, and I love it when wrestlers continue to build that storyline and sell those things that they're doing in the ring, and then it affects their finishers and things like that.
But this match at the end of it got a big Twitter.
So as soon as that ends, right, and the pin happens, everything goes black.
Yeah.
Everything was going on, and it was black for quite some time.
Okay.
So when it comes back, Kenny's still in the ring, Pentagon's laid out, and then Pentagon gets up.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's going on? But he's definitely kind of changed, right?
Yeah.
He looks a little different and kind of bigger.
Yeah.
And he's got like some tattoos, and the crowd was really kind of not sure what was happening. And Kenny's like, thinks, well, he's still out.
Yeah.
He's, waving at the crowd, things like that. Turns around, boom, gets clobbered by Pentagon with some clotheslines, and just he's getting stomped in the corner repeatedly. And then at some point, bounced off the ropes, and boom, he hits a code breaker. And then Kenny's laid out, Pentagon's on his knees, it zooms in, mask revealed. It was Chris Jericho.
Which is interesting because it got a big pop, right?
Huge pop.
And we all know Jericho is the master of surprises.
He is, and that's what's so refreshing about having Jericho being a part of this stuff is because he really is big
because
on
people
those.
are speculating would Chris Jericho show up because he is a free agent and he's been doing a lot of indie stuff lately.
Yeah, so this for Jericho, this sets up, obviously if you hadn't seen it, Wrestle Kingdom, these guys had an amazing match at the beginning of the year.
Some say maybe match of the year.
Yeah, possible match of the year, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho.
Maybe Chris Jericho's best match in 10 years.
Yeah, and even at his age, he was still going and still doing really, really well. But this sets it up for his cruise.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho on his cruise.
Which is interesting, though, because Jericho said he would never do a pay-per-view in America besides WWE, and he kind of made a special appearance at a pay-per-view in America that wasn't WWE.
Well, and a lot of people were speculating when the lights went off, would it be CM Punk?
And he had a show that night too, Chris Jericho in Kansas,
but he made the flight out.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you check social media, you can see he does kind of talk about it as he's leaving on a private jet back to a Fozzy concert.
Yeah.
No, this was fantastic. Really great way to set up this feud.
And a great surprise for All In too.
Yeah, and it's always a nice surprise. We got to see some legends. We got to see Jericho. And, of course, this goes to Kazuchika Okada and Marty Scurll.
I know you were excited about this.
And this to me, of course, there were a lot of great matches. This might have stole the show because I feel like Marty really went out of his way to pull out all the stops in this match. And I'd say this is the match of the year for him. Now, of course, anybody knows that the Rainmaker is way over in New Japan. He is the guy in New Japan, and he's coming off this amazing run, with in the heavyweight division. So the whole storyline, if you've been following it, if you haven't, quick recap on it, is that Marty Scurll didn't have an opponent for All In. They decided, what better way to do it than have him go against Kazuchika Okada. For the most part, everyone he's talked to, he says, what can I do? How can I prepare for this match? And they said, you can't. You are screwed. Yeah. So, and of course, the whole thing is that he was trying to push himself as a heavyweight. Yeah. And Okada, of course, looks at him and he can't really take Marty seriously, right? So that's really the whole storyline between them. And, of course, the joke, one of the go-homes, I feel like, for them was Marty had cut a really good promo on being the Elite. And then he runs into Okada in Tokyo, and Okada gives him the 205 because he just thinks, this is where you're going to go. I'm going to beat you. You're going to lose. Of course, end of story, Okada does beat Marty Scurll, but not without Marty putting up a really good fight. Some of the highlights in this match were the Rainmaker spots, where the whole time on social media, Marty's been teasing he can stop the rain, right? Well, he stops the rain with an umbrella. As soon as Okada goes for it, he pulls out the umbrella, boom, flashes it all in. Okada's frozen, right? He stops his finisher. And that was really a cool spot. People popped huge for that. At some point, Okada was behind Marty, had him in a hold. And, he tells the crowd he does the 205. But as soon as he goes for the 5, Marty grabs him, and the crowd pop huge because Marty's known for breaking the fingers, right? Yeah. So one of his moves, and he gets him, boom, and everyone just pops huge for that. Marty got, his usual spots in. But Okada, it was a great finish. He goes for the first Rainmaker and then has to go for another one because Marty doesn't quite give him that. And it was cool because Marty at some point did a Rainmaker on Okada, and everyone thought that was it. It was a near fall kick out. It was wow, that was really good. So a lot of great spots in this. It ended with Okada having to hit 2 Rainmakers to put Marty away. But, like I say, it was definitely we knew this match was going to be towards the end. And then it was really, I thought it was going to be before Kenny's. Okay. I didn't think Kenny was going to go on before this match.
Yeah, a lot of people, the whole match kind of was, the card was uniquely set up. But you said the main event was the weirdest of all because they didn't really have a lot of time to finish it.
So the main finish of All In, every match had about 20 minutes with the exception of the main event, which only had 10 because of the broadcasting time that we were looking at. And so it was the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi against Rey Mysterio, Phoenix, and Bandito. So this was exactly what you think if you've ever seen a Young Bucks match, if you've ever seen them wrestle against high flyers. This is a very, very high-paced, fast match. Very quick back and forth, a lot of high flying, a lot of spots. But you could tell it was very, very rushed, and it was because they had to do this match in only 10. They planned it for 20. They realized they didn't have enough time before the broadcast would end, so they gave you what they got. I heard at the end of the match, the Bucks came out and apologized for it, but they made it in broadcasting time 3 seconds before they went off air, which is close. But everything you'd expect in this match really happened. A lot of high flying from every guy. Spots on the outside, Bucks hitting super kicks, the Bucks hitting more bang for your buck with Ibushi, so you get the kind of the fireman's carry roll into the moonsault. Ibushi gets a moonsault, and then Nick Jackson finishes with the 450. You got some great stuff from Mysterio. Mysterio hits the the 619, and there was just a lot of high flying, a lot of great lucha stuff with everybody getting a lot of their high spots in, but very fast paced, like as usual per Bucks. The Bucks get the win on this with the Meltzer driver.
Huh?
And that's it. Rey Mysterio didn't get pinned.
Yeah.
So, he was dressed in a Wolverine outfit, which is kind of cool.
His costumes are always pretty cool.
Yeah. So, overall, great card. I mean, I wish we could have seen like a 20-minute from the Bucks, but, we got what we got, and we got it broadcast, so that was great. So, anyone that couldn't be there, you can still buy the broadcast at Fight TV or Ring of Honor Club. But yeah, what do you think overall of what you've seen on social media?
I think it was a home run, basically, on the success. I would have did the card differently, but hey, it was still a success. And now we have Cody as the world champion, and maybe him and Nick Aldis have a couple more matches, and it should be pretty good to see where it goes with that feud or that title, and all these other matches are one in a lifetime. And great to see surprises like DDP and Jericho and all the other guys.
Got to see Animal on a motorcycle ride down to the ring.
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of cool stuff. Like I say, very hybrid, very interweaving, like a lot of the old school kind of pro wrestling mentality. A lot of the legends getting a lot of cameos, but also showcasing a lot of the other styles from a lot of the other cultures, like Lucha style, New Japan style.
And before we go, Ben, how would you rate All In?
All In was fantastic. It was definitely worth the purchase. Very good price point, I thought, for a pay-per-view. I didn't get to catch it live.
Yeah.
I caught like the last bits. I had to catch the replay.
Yeah.
But you can always watch the replay once you purchase it, so it's great.
Well, it's another great edition of watching from Ringside, and we weren't in Chicago, but hey, it was fun to see something.
It was magic. It was wrestling magic, and it was history.
It's great to see a new thing happen, and maybe this creates other things throughout the year we could talk about with All In, other aspects of what the NWA, what Billy Corgan's doing, what Chris Jericho's making surprises everywhere.
Right. It opens the door up the doors for a lot of different storylines and a lot of different things, and All In too, as off the air social media popped because the guys came out and kind of teased the possibility of All In 2, asking the crowd if did they enjoy what they've seen, and if they did, then we might see this again next year. Maybe
Madison Square Garden.
Could be. Well, but that's next year's.
Yeah.
Is Ring of Honor New Japan's Madison Square Garden.
Ben, it's been fun as always, and stay tuned for next week, watching from Ringside, because surprises throughout this wrestling world.
Always surprises.
Well, until next time, for Ben, I'm Dustin. Bye.